welcome back to SAT Grammar. Today we will be talking about commas. So first, let's talk about what is a comma. A comma is a punctuation mark indicating a pause between two parts of a sentence. It attaches two clauses together, and it cannot connect two independent clauses unless it's with fanboys, which we'll go over in a second. And it can also be used to add additional information to a sentence, for example, an appositive. And if you're not completely familiar with what independent and dependent clauses are, make sure to watch my previous video so you can follow along. Okay, let's talk about fanboys. So, fanboy, the only time you can connect two independent clauses with a comma is if you use one of these conjunction words. For, and, not, but, or, yet, or so. When you're connecting two independent clauses with any of these words, actually, you need a comma, or else it's going to be a run-on sentence. So let's look at some of these examples. I stayed home for I was feeling sick. So the reason why we're able to connect these sentences is because with a comma is because we're using for. And also, let's say if we didn't have the comma, I stayed home for I was feeling sick, that would also be an error. So when we're connecting two independent clauses, it has to be with fanboys. And if we want to use fanboys at all, so if it gives you like a problem, like if you have comma for, right? Then you would, or if you're connecting two sentences or two independent clauses with for, right? You would need a comma right before that. Let's look at one more example. I wanted to go outside, but it started raining. We have but, which is part of fanboys, so we need the comma because we're connecting two independent clauses or complete thoughts or complete sentences on their own. When should we and when should we not use commas? For commas, once again, make sure you do not connect two independent clauses together. And this is known as a comma splice error, but that's not necessary to know for the SAT. And then check if each side can stand alone as their own independent sentence or independent clause. If they can, do not use a comma. You're going to want to use a semicolon or a period, but we're going to go over those in a different video. If there is a dependent clause on one side and an independent clause on another, then we do use a comma. This is because a dependent clause cannot stand alone as its own sentence, or it will be grammatically incorrect and the answer is just not going to be right. Commas can also be used to separate non-essential information, such as appositives. And here would be, this is not an appositive, this is just non-essential information, and we're going to go over appositives in a different video as well, since those have a little bit more nuance. But for now, just know if the information is non-essential, then you're going to use a comma. So for example, my brother who lives in Texas is visiting. Who lives in Texas, like the sentence makes sense without it, so we're going to put that in between commas. And you can also use commas in a list, but I'm sure you already know that. Now we're going to go over two example problems. Human-made synthetic fibers used in clothes and many other consumer products are more durable than most natural plant fibers. And then fibers could be with but we're just going to read the second part. The manufacture of synthetic fibers requires toxic chemical solvents that can pollute air and water. Okay. Let's look at this first part. Human-made synthetic fibers used in clothes and many other consumer products are more durable than most natural plant fibers. So that is going to be an independent clause. That's a sentence on its own, so we're going to mark that as independent. The manufacture of synthetic fibers requires toxic chemical solvents that can pollute air and water. Once again, that's also an independent clause, so we're going to need to use fanboys since we're connecting this with either a comma or nothing. And we can't connect two independent clauses with nothing because that would definitely be a run-on sentence, just letting you know. So since we're using one of fanboys, but then we're going to need a comma, so the answer is going to be D. So let's go over to this hard problem. The haiku-like poems of Thomas Transtromer, which present nature and dream-influenced images in crisp, spare language, have earned the Swedish poet praise from leading contemporary writers. Among them, Nigerian-American essayist and novelist Teju Cole, who has written that Transformers' works contain a luminous simplicity. Okay, Now let's look at this. So first I'm just gonna write out writers. I'm just gonna write this out so it's easier to explain. Okay, so the haiku-like poems of Thomas Transformer, and then this is from leading contemporary writers. This part is going to be an independent clause, right? Because it's a complete thought, it's a complete sentence. You already know this. So since we have this marked as independent clause, we go to the next one. Among them, Nigerian-American essayist and novelist Teju Cole. This on its own would not be an independent clause, so it's a dependent clause. So mark that as a dependent clause. Who has written that Transtromer's works contain a luminous simplicity. This is also a dependent clause. So let's say that we were to separate this with a period or a semicolon and turn this into its own sentence. Two dependent clauses cannot make an independent clause. So cannot make a complete sentence. So we would need to connect this with our independent clause to make it a complete sentence. So then we would connect it with a comma. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching.